Every Tuesday, we give you a top 10. So the top 10 for this week, like I just mentioned, predicting who the top 10 quarterbacks are going to be at the end of 2025. If you're new to the show, welcome. It's always college football. Make sure you are subscribed. We got podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify. Go ahead and lock in over there. Leave us a review. Just helps us get more of what you want to see onto the show. But let's waste no more time and get to our projection of the top 10 quarterbacks in the Big Ten. At number 10, now again, this is a projection. Okay, so this is not a current ranking. At number 10, I got Joey Aguilar transferring to UCLA from App State. Now, this is a Cato special. Cato producer of the Hard Count, App State alum. He and I talked about this for the better part of 20-ish minutes. I'm seeing what he's seeing. Okay, Joey Aguilar played a lot of ball, went to multiple JUCOs, started multiple years at App State, went over 3,000 yards each of the last 2 years. But there's more to this than just the experience for a Joey Aguilar, while we're projecting to be a top 10 guy next season in the conference. Tino Sinceri is the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at UCLA, previously at Indiana with Curt Cignetti. You look at this dude's track record. I mean, in his Twitter bio, it says the sniper mentality. I don't know exactly what that means, but it fires me up when you say it. But that mentality has been true to how he has helped quarterbacks each of the last 3 years that have transferred in. They spend one season with him, have a ton of success. All right, each of the last 3 transfer quarterbacks he had, most recently Curtis Rourke, have played some of their best football, if not their best football, their entire career. And with Joey Aguilar transferring in from App State to UCLA, I see no reason why that wouldn't be the case. Okay, so Joey Aguilar for us, top 10 guy going into next season, at the end of next season, I should say, within the Big Ten for 2025. Now at number 9, another transfer, a bit of a theme here, Fernando Mendoza, Mr. 98 yards with my boys. That post-game interview on the field with Morgan Uber, if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. I mean, the dude just bringing absolute juice to the table after they went out and beat Stanford. Transfers over from Cal. Okay, now solid year last year. When we talk about Joey Aguilar and what he is at UCLA, I also feel the same way about Fernando Mendoza with the system he's entering into. Curtis Rourke, second mention from my guy across the program, so good for Curtis Rourke, former Indiana quarterback. Mike Shanahan is going to be his offensive coordinator. Curt Cignetti, his head coach, obviously. There's a blueprint there, I think, for success for Fernando Mendoza, who had a good year last year. He's at number 9. At number 8, DeMond Williams, quarterback at Washington. Now, when you watch this dude play ball, didn't start the entirety of last year for Washington, but went absolutely ballistic in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. If we're drinking too much of the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl Kool-Aid, then we don't apologize for that. Had 5 total touchdowns, over 400 total yards. Again, guy's just a ball player, man. I think with a little bit more time for the offense to be built around him, I think that will only cater to him having more success. Love what he is as a dual threat. And people throw out the word dual threat or the phrase dual threat kind of casually. Like, he legitimately, if you don't take the proper angle on DeMond Williams, he'll make you pay. He's got legitimate giddy-up-and-go from the quarterback position. So really excited to see what he is next year. Had multiple plays on his highlight tape where he's just not just making dudes miss, but destroying the angles of defenders. I think they got him dead to rights, so it's a quarterback. He takes off and gets extra yardage because they misjudged what he brought to the table there. So DeMond Williams, one of the most electric players, I think, in this conference going into next season. Really, really juiced to see what he is next year. He's at number 8 for me. Now, number 7, Nebraska's Dylan Raiola. Kind of up and down last year. True freshman a season ago. Took his lumps. I'm buying stock in Dylan Raiola for 2025 because of how he finished last season. Remember, at the end of the year, they switch offensive coordinators. Dana Holgorsen takes over the show in Lincoln. And whenever Dana Holgorsen got the play calling duties at Nebraska, Dylan Raiola averaged a 70% completion percentage for the end of the season. So I saw a lot of success at the end of the year. I think having a full year under his belt to figure out college football, this is why you brought Dylan Raiola to Nebraska. We got more thoughts on Nebraska later in the show, but this is why you brought him here, to be able to turn things around. And I think the turnaround should start in his second season and should be something that you see a lot of in Matt Rule's third year, which is obviously when he does his best work. Now at number 6, this is the trickiest ranking for me in terms of where his spot is. I could see this guy being all the way up at 2, to be real with y'all. I got Luke Altmyer at 6 from Illinois. Now, the reason for that being, loses his top 2 pass catchers from a season ago. Again, this is a projection to next year. There's a lot of guys that I just think are supremely talented that should have their say on the Big Ten next season. Luke Altmyer now is an all Big Ten honorable mention from last season. So this dude can play some football. If you were doing a ranking off of what you know about them, off of like proven commodities going into next season, Luke Altmyer is at number 2. But I think this just shows how vicious the Big Ten Conference is at the quarterback position going into next season, which is good for college football. So Altmyer at 6, not a knock on him, just a lot of talent around the conference. Now, Bryce Underwood for me is at 5. Now, I totally hear all the Illinois fans, all the Ohio State fans throwing things and saying, why do you got this guy 5 before he's even touched a football field at the collegiate level? I hear you. This is a gamble. Again, we're predicting the end of the season. This is a gamble. And the gamble for me is that Bryce Underwood is as special as everyone continues to tell us that he is. Like, the physical giftings aren't the question. The size isn't the question. The question is, how does he acclimate to the college game? I think he'll be the guy from day one. I think Chip Lindsey's offense is going to cater to his skill set. If Bryce Underwood has some weapons around him to maximize and help his overall maturation process, like, he could be a lot higher than number 5. So 5, before he's even touched the football field, might feel generous. Y'all, I'm just telling you, he could finish higher on this list, depending on, again, what's around him and how quickly he's able to put it all together. But if it's purely off talent, I mean, there's no telling where this guy ranks, not just in this list, but across college football. I feel that strongly about him. Last thing I'll say, rated 100 overall as a recruit. 100. That is the first 100 overall grade we've given out here at On 3. So I think that means something, and we're going to go ahead and buy the trend there with Bryce Underwood at number 5. And number 4, Jayden Maiava from USC. Are we really doubting that a Lincoln Riley quarterback isn't going to have a tremendous season? And a lot of people are very quick to say, well, JD, Miller Moss wasn't the problem last year. Like, they had to change the music at the party because they were having issues, but it wasn't like Miller Moss wasn't playing well. Miller Moss missed the majority of November and still was darn near top 10 in the Big Ten in passing last season. So, like, it's not a Miller Moss issue for USC. Jayden Maiava, the way that he finished last year, finished on a heater, Lincoln Riley's words, not ours. He also has the chops, I think. It's not just a projection with him, like you've seen what he can be. Notre Dame had arguably the best secondary in college football last year. They held teams like 160 a game or something ridiculous. Jayden Maiava took them for 360 through the air. Nobody else in college football took it for more than 300. So I get that's one game. Maybe we're extrapolating too much from one sample size, but I think Jayden Maiava is going to be a dude. And I think Lincoln Riley, once again, has a ball player at quarterback, and it's going to be Jayden Maiava, a top 5 guy next year in the conference. At number 3, Dante Moore. 5-star plus cat, coming over to Oregon from UCLA. The Oregon offense, and I want to make sure I say this the correct way, I don't think the Oregon offense is a super demanding offense physically on the quarterback position. They're not asking you to throw a bunch of field comebacks and all these NFL tight window throws. That's not knocking the quarterback. That's just telling you that's what Will Stein's asking you to do to have success. And they've had a lot of success the last couple of seasons with 2 Heisman Trophy finalists at the quarterback position. Both transfers. Dante Moore, also a transfer, as we mentioned. So to bring this point home, the physical part of it won't be an issue for Dante Moore. It's going to be about, does he have control of the system? The reason why I like him at number 3 is he's had a full year now to get his legs underneath him, to figure out the system, to see Dylan Gabriel do it at a high level, and I trust Will Stein to be able to put him in position to be enormously successful. One more thing I'll say, too, schedule for Dante Moore is not going to be the gauntlet that Dylan Gabriel was dealing with a season ago, so I'll leave that there. But at number 3, Dante Moore. Now, at number 2, I got Ohio State's Julian Sayin. It's funny to have him this high because he still has to win the job. I think he will. I think that when you talk about the Ohio State quarterback position, it would be a little bit irresponsible if we're projecting towards the end of the season from where I'm sitting here, to not think they're going to have a top 3 guy in the conference. Now, again, I don't think Julian Sayin, and he hasn't done it just yet. So, again, this is a massive prediction. But he was deemed as the most accurate passer in the cycle when he came out of high school. Got to sit for a full year. And the thing with Ohio State to me is, like, they haven't had a dude finish outside the top 3 when it comes to passing yards in the Big Ten since 2016. And everyone's going to be very quick. Kyle McCord finished second in the Big Ten in passing yards. Kyle McCord also last season led the country in passing at Syracuse. Now, I get he didn't do it at Ohio State, so that's a different discussion to be had. But with the weapons, with Ryan Day, all these things, I get it's a new coordinator. I still want to see how that all comes together. But I just think with the talent around Julian Sayin, the talent Julian Sayin has, and the fact that Ryan Day, everyone seems to forget, has a quarterback pedigree to himself, I think that Julian Sayin is going to do extremely well for the Buckeyes next season. I think he'll be the number 2 quarterback in the Big Ten when it's all said and done. Now, at number 1, if you have anyone besides Drew Allar on your projection for the Big Ten next year to be the top quarterback, you're just kind of guessing. Like, maybe you're right, and if you are, more power to you. But there's nothing, I don't think, tangible to look at outside of Drew Allar being number 1 guy that to me would make a whole lot of sense. Going to be a 3-year starter. Took Penn State to the semifinals a season ago. Took them to the Big Ten title game. The big question around Drew Allar isn't with Drew Allar. To me, it's more so, can they get him some weapons? Because Tyler Warren is a freak show, and he's gone to the NFL. Bringing Kyron Hudson from USC, which I think was a very sneaky portal addition for the Nittany Lions. You would hope/expect they're active in the spring portal to get him some more weapons. But when it comes to Drew Allar, I don't have any question about his ability. You even look at the Boise State game a season ago. There's a drive at the end of the half, and he's just dealing seeds downfield. And his receivers are not helping him out at all. He got drops, going off the fingertips. And I get it was Boise State, but if it were just about pure ability, and I think ability should have a large part in this whole list, I think Drew Allar being at number 1 is the only right answer for my money. So to recap it here, at number 10, the transfer from App State to UCLA, Joey Aguilar, little Tino Sinceri special sniper mentality. You got to love it. At number 9, 98 yards with my boys, Fernando Mendoza, going to be at Indiana next season. Damon Williams, number 8 from Washington. Dylan Raiola at 7. Luke Altmyer at 6. Bryce Underwood at 5. Jayden Maiava at 4. Dante Moore at 3. Julian Sayin at 2. And Drew Allar at number 1 for us on our projection for the top 10 quarterbacks at the end of next season in the Big Ten Conference. Let me know your thoughts there. I get that we'll have a bunch of different responses and a bunch of different combinations of a top 10. That's why it's fun. It's why it's a good time to break this down here in the month of March around the college football season. But regardless, let me know your thoughts, and looking forward to unpacking your responses here over on the socials on Instagram and Twitter at JD PicKell.